Russian FPV interceptor footage from the Zaporizhzhia sector captures a Ukrainian free-floating balloon carrying a multi-copter drone at more than 2.5 kilometers altitude as the assembly drifts toward the rear. The system begins on the ground where operators prepare a large helium-filled envelope capable of generating substantial buoyancy. Helium produces approximately 1 kilogram of net lift for every cubic meter of volume at sea level density after the weight of the balloon fabric itself is subtracted. For a heavy multi-copter airframe fitted with one or more Starlink mini terminals, the total payload can reach several kilograms once batteries release mechanisms and wiring are included, so the balloon must enclose several cubic meters of gas. As the balloon ascends, the external air pressure falls and the helium expands, allowing the envelope to maintain lift even as ambient density decreases. At altitudes above 8 kilometers, the air is thin enough that conventional radar returns weaken, while the thermal signature remains near ambient because the drone motors stay completely offline during the drift phase. The multi-copter hangs suspended beneath the balloon on a simple tether or quick-release cradle. Starlink terminals mounted on the airframe provide continuous broadband connectivity independent of ground stations or line-of-sight radio links. Once the balloon reaches the chosen altitude and geographic coordinates, an onboard timer altitude sensor or geofence command severs the tether. The multicopter then stabilizes itself with brief motor bursts before beginning a controlled glide. Potential energy stored in the altitude converts directly into horizontal distance, so the aircraft can cover tens of kilometers while consuming only a few % of its battery capacity. Flight tests of comparable balloon launch systems demonstrated a carrier transit of roughly 40 kilometers, followed by release at 8 kilometers altitude, with the drone retaining 95% of its original charge. That preserved energy, combined with the glide phase, effectively doubles the powered range of a typical 150 to 200 kilometer multicopter, bringing the total strike envelope into the 300 kilometer class under favorable conditions. Atmospheric circulation supplies the primary motive force. Across the mid-latitude band that covers Ukraine and western Russia, the large-scale pressure patterns generate consistent west-to-east flow, known as the westerlies. Balloons released from Ukrainian-held territory therefore drift naturally toward Russian-controlled areas and deeper into the Russian interior. Wind speeds at 8 to 10 kilometers commonly range between 60 and 150 kilometers per hour, depending on the season and the position of frontal systems, so a balloon can cover substantial ground in a matter of hours. Operators select launch windows by consulting detailed meteorological forecasts that predict wind direction and speed at successive altitude layers. By choosing the precise height of release, they can exploit different wind vectors stacked in the stratified atmosphere and refine the final trajectory. The physical advantages compound. Because the balloon itself requires no propulsion, it produces neither acoustic nor infrared signature beyond the weak reflection of the envelope. The multi-copter motors remain cold until the moment of release, further reducing detectability. Once free, the aircraft can descend in a shallow glide, then ignite its propellers only for the terminal phase, preserving battery life for maneuvering and terminal guidance. Starlink connectivity allows the operator to remain far from the launch site and to update target coordinates or flight paths in real time, even while the assembly is still attached to the balloon. The entire carrier system costs a fraction of a conventional cruise missile, yet delivers a precision strike asset deep behind the line of contact. In the recorded engagement, the Russian FPV air defense operator acquired the balloon and its suspended multicopter at altitude greater than kilometers. The interceptor closed the distance and destroyed the assembly before the Ukrainian drone could separate and continue under its own power. The footage shows the balloon envelope still fully inflated and the multicopter hanging intact until the moment of impact, confirming that the system was still in the drift phase. Such intercepts remain challenging because the target moves slowly, presents a small radar cross-section, and flies well above the engagement envelopes of many short-range systems. Successful engagement therefore often requires dedicated high-altitude interceptors or opportunistic FPV pilots who happen to be positioned along the predicted drift path. The same physical principles that enable the Ukrainian system also limit its flexibility. Wind direction must align with the desired target axis, and meteorological conditions must remain stable long enough for the balloon to reach the release zone. Nevertheless, the combination of inexpensive buoyancy, high-altitude energy storage, and satellite connectivity creates a practical method for extending the reach of battery-powered multicopters far beyond their native performance. Each successful drift adds range without adding fuel weight, and each intercepted balloon still forces the defender to expend an interceptor that costs far more than the balloon itself. The technical elegance lies in the quiet conversion of atmospheric motion and gravitational potential into extended combat reach.